Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Today's a big day. Today is episode 150, 150. So Stephanie was kind enough in our show last week to inform me that we had actually shot so far, as of last week, we had shot 55 shows this year in 2020. And that would make this show number 56. And I want to say we might have one or two more still in store this year. So definitely a record year for content in the terms of interviews from all the fun and fascinating people that make up this industry. Today is Wednesday, December 16th. It is just a little bit after 12:30 p.m. Eastern time here in Florida on the East Coast. I'm just realizing right now that it's pretty dark, so I'm going to hit my handy little shades here and put a little light in the room because why not? And what else? What do I want to mention here before we go live with my guest? I want to mention that tomorrow, tomorrow's Thursday, December 17th. We at One Firefly are going to be doing a webinar. We're actually going to do the same webinar, but we're going to do it at two different times, 12 o'clock and then 5 o'clock tomorrow. And we are going to be showing off our brand new media gallery content. We shot all of this footage in early November, the first week in November, actually. Yes, in the middle of the pandemic. And so it made our multiple day shoot super interesting. Everybody was wearing masks and following the right protocols. We even had a medic on site both days, just in case somebody comes down with a fever. And we shot brand new, beautiful content featuring Crestron in their experience center in Dania Beach. We also shot brand new content for Lutron at their experience center in Plantation, Florida. So you'll notice the proximity. I'm here in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale, and so we were a bit landlocked for travel due to the pandemic. But fortunately, our video crew, we had a crew of almost 20 people on each day of shooting. We were able to make it happen. Some of them were able to fly in. We were able to pull local talent as well out of Miami. And we had a great couple of days of shooting. We also were able to capture some beautiful content for Josh AI. So for all those websites that we're going to be building in the future, or any of those websites that we have already built over the last, say, year and a half in our Mercury Pro platform, we've got brand new, beautiful content ready to go to load into those websites. So definitely want to go to our Instagram or our Facebook or our website to our webinars page. And on all of those locations, you'll see information on how you can register for that webinar. And you definitely want to tune in. It's going to be a lot of beautiful stuff. It's going to be short. We're going to try to keep the meat of the content to 30 minutes. And we'll take any Q&A if that happens. So maybe the total time allotment is 45 minutes or so. But we'll get you in and out pretty quickly. Now that I've gotten my public address message out on behalf of One Firefly, the sponsor of this show, I'm going to introduce our guest. We have Brian Perreault. He is the COO at industry veteran integration, retail/integration firm out of Chicago, known as Barrett's Technology Solutions. They are an HTSA member. We are also a brand new HTSA member as a vendor. We're happy to be there. And I'm happy to say we've worked with Brian specifically and his team at Barrett's for many years. And so trying to get Brian's schedule matched up or meshed up with mine so that we could do this. It took a little while, but here we are. And if you're out there watching, I see we have a bunch of you guys and gals watching live. Don't forget to like, share, drop a comment in, and let Brian and I know where you're coming to us from. It'll be greatly appreciated. And if you have questions for Brian as we go, don't be shy. Speak up and let us know what you're thinking or any questions you have. And I'll do my best to get that read off to Brian so he can answer real time. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna bring Brian in now. Let's see if technology cooperates. Brian, how are you, sir?
Hey, Ron. How are you?
I am super well. Where are you coming to us from?
From Lombard, Illinois, just right outside of Chicago. So thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. I on Instagram, I sometimes, or anyone that follows me personally, they'll know that I'll post stories, usually of nature. I do a nature walk around my neighborhood, and there's lots of beautiful trees and ponds. And yesterday morning, I went outside, and the hole. I live right on a practice hole for the golf course, and so it was hot and steamy, and literally there was a cloud layer of fog from the steam. And I posted that picture. So it's basically a cheat way for me to say it's hot and steamy here in Florida. How is it in Chicago?
It's not hot and steamy. In fact, we had snow on the ground today, so a little bit of a contrast from what you just described.
Is
But
it?
that's Chicago. You know what? It's winter's here, so
Sorry. So when did winter arrive?
the last couple of days have been pretty chilly. When you find you're going outside and you have to put on your knit hat, winter's here. So, but you get used to it. I've been in Chicago all my life, so it's sometimes it gets cold enough that I start thinking, what am I doing here? But you know what? I would miss the change of seasons if we didn't have them. So it's a great place to be.
Got it. So there's a nickname for Chicago. Is it Chi-Town? Is it Chi-Town?
Chi-Town or the Windy City?
The Windy City. So like Chi, how do you say it? CHI. Is it Chi or Chi?
Chi-Town is
Chi-Town. Does
correct.
anyone actually in Chicago say that, or is it only people outside of Chicago that say
probably
that?
more so people outside of Chicago.
Okay, so
or the Windy City. I remember I was traveling for our honeymoon. My wife and I went to Ireland, and everybody there recognized us being from the Windy City. It wasn't Chicago. So
the Windy City.
The Windy City is what they know us as overseas. So it was interesting. And by the way, that has nothing to do with wind. It's all about Chicago politics.
Is that really? I was actually gonna pull that thread because I was like, I lived in Minnesota and it was very windy and the wind chills were ridiculous and terribly cold. But that's not why it has that name.
That's not why it has that name. So
all right, so now you got to tell us all more. We are all waiting on bated breath. What does windy have to do with politics?
Well, I mean, Chicago politics. Illinois isn't exactly known to have the most ethical politics, and that dates back years and years. And I can't tell you exactly how that term was born, but I can tell you that it doesn't have to do with
actual wind,
the climate, or actual wind.
All right. Well, that is good to know. We got a few people popping in. We got Maria. She says, welcomes, greetings from Mexico.
Wow.
Thank you, Maria. And we got Alex, and Alex says, welcome, Brian. So thank you, Alex.
Hello, Alex and Maria. Thanks for joining.
Got one more. We got Angel. He says, welcome, Brian. Saludos from Mexico. I'm the guy spamming your email with blog notifications to your website.
I know the name well.
So he's got to come in and see what Brian's all about.
There you go. Hey, so before we get started, congrats to you. 150.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. A big deal. It's a big deal. We're 3.5 years into this show, this content, these interviews. And this year, thanks to my team, it is all them, Angel and Stephanie and Allison. And I know there are more, Carly, and there's lots of people behind the scenes at One Firefly. And Carlos was just in helping us do some audio checks before we went live. Lots of people at One Firefly involved in making this show possible. The emails that you received in advance to fill out forms and create, and Miguel, create images and artwork.
Yeah.
And then to get these shows produced, as we've built up our team here at One Firefly, it's made it possible to actually do more shows.
It's fantastic. 150 is a big deal.
No, well, thank you. And it is, I'm happy and excited to have you on for show 150. How's that?
Yeah, thank you.
How long have you and I been working together? At least a few years, right?
I was trying to think about this before the show, and it's got to be, you did the first project you did for us was our sales portfolio, and I want to say that was probably
sales portfolio.
Yeah, that was probably 7 or 8 years ago, maybe longer. You know what? The one thing that happened, the more time that goes by, the less relevant time seems. It's what you think is 2 years ago was 5 years ago, and what you think was 5 years ago was 10 years ago. So it's probably been at least 7-8 years.
7-8 years. And here we are today. You are COO of Barrett's. Barrett's is a longtime industry veteran company. Can tell our audience about your role and about the company at large and maybe some of the history of the company.
So our company was founded in 1966. Believe it or not, back then we were a TV store. The name of the company was Barrett Magnavox. We were an exclusive Magnavox television dealer. The founder of the company, Jim Barrett, used to work for a long-standing Chicago retailer called Polk Brothers. Polk Brothers was kind of like an institution in the Chicagoland area. You'd go there to buy TVs and electronics and appliances, and they were one of the first big box retailers in our market. And he had an opportunity to branch off on his own and open a store to sell TVs and other electronics. And that was right around the time that there was a lot of upside in selling color TVs. Mm-hmm. And, so looking back, I mean, it's really remarkable how far we've come as a company. That was 1966. I joined the company in 1991. And even, from 66 to 91, the company had gone through a few evolutions. When I joined the company, the name of the company was Barrett's Audio Video. And we were a specialty retailer. We had stores in malls. I think we had at the time 5 stores in shopping malls. And we sold, specialty electronics. We tried to sell tier 2 brands that, were just one step up from what you would find at the conventional big box stores. And, earned a really nice living for a lot of years doing retail. Right before the recession, we started seeing that, our business was really transitioning. I'm talking about the recession of 2008, where we were doing more and more custom installs. We had an installation team, a very talented installation team on staff. And, we were getting more and more calls to integrate the technology into people's homes as opposed to people buying it and us, loading their trunks and sending them on their way. We had more and more demand to integrate the technology into our clients' homes. So, right after the recession, we started seeing that the retail business for us was struggling. It was tough. I mean, competing with, not only the local big box stores, but the internet was getting harder and harder. At the same time, we have this custom installation business that's going gangbusters. So, shortly thereafter, we made a decision to focus all of our efforts on being a good custom integrator. So what does that mean is that we're no longer going to be focused on somebody walking through the front door to earn a living. We would be more aggressive about going out to get the business, developing those, strategic relationships, and integrating technology and being that resource for our clients. And, fast forward to today, a huge contrast. I'm calling you. Our call right now is I'm sitting in my office in an office park. No retail store. We just moved to this space.
No walk-in traffic, buying boxes and walking.
None of that. And it was a little bit of a culture shock because even in my career, for many, many years, that's where what we called our home office was in a retail destination. So just this year, we moved into an office park. We felt ready. We had enough relationships where, we just knew, and we hadn't been dependent, for many, many years on that walk-in foot traffic. So it's been really an interesting evolution. As COO, I oversee the day-to-day operations of the company. I oversee both our installation and sales teams. I've been instrumental in driving change and making sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to be successful as an integration company, because it's required a lot of change from a lot of individuals. We've got a ton of tenure in our firm, so a lot of the folks made that transition with us, going from retail to the company we are today, Home Integration.
I would imagine this gets a bit. This is a bit of a marketing question, but it seems super interesting for me that you had many, many years, decades and decades of building a customer base in retail. And now you were able, you talked about in the last recession, what used to be called the Great Recession. I don't know if it still gets called the Great Recession after this stuff we're going through now.
Right.
But that was what, around 10, 2009, 10 and 11, that time frame.
Right.
And you transitioned into integration. It seems like that's pretty powerful opportunity to market to those decades of customers that were buying thises and that's from you guys. And now you're able to market your integration. Were you, your integration services, were you always marketing to them? Or was there a pivot in terms of strategy of how to leverage those decades of tenure in the market?
Well, it's funny. It's kind of a combination of both things. When we first made the transition, that our client base was really the ones that were keeping our doors open. At that point, we had a healthy enough client base, dating back for almost 50 years, or at the time 40 years, where we had a lot of repeat and referral business, and that was a healthy business. So yes, we did do a lot of marketing to those folks to explain our new services, and some of those clients came along for the ride, and others didn't. Frankly, we probably lost some clients during that transition because what we chose to do was highly unique, and it was different. It was no longer that experience of walking into a retail store and talking to a salesperson and, purchasing something over the counter and then, having us load their trunk and sending them on their way. It was different, and not everybody necessarily had that need. Once we started having some success, really the true transition came when we started doing business development, because we knew we needed to keep driving the business, right? We couldn't just be dependent upon, that book of business or the retail client base we had. We had to go out and find new business and new opportunities. And this was, probably 5 to 7 years ago, the principal owner of the company, Joe Barrett, assumed the role of business development. So it was his job to go out and knock on the doors of architects and designers and custom home builders and landscape contractors and other trades and develop those relationships. And it took a little while. It's definitely the long game. You don't see the fruits of that labor overnight, but we did start seeing great success from that, to a point where almost all of our business was derived from the trades community. And even today, that's the vast majority of our business are through those relationships that we have with designers and architects and the like. In that process, one of the things that was interesting is we, to some degree, lost a little focus on embracing our existing client base. We had this whole new sector of clients that were keeping us super busy. And we still had, because of our reputation and the solid relationships we had, we still had a lot of folks coming back to us for, to do upgrades or those sorts of things. But it really wasn't until just this year with COVID that we knew that was a mistake, that we had to really embrace our existing client base. We put together an increased marketing effort to go after our existing clients, and that's one of our main focuses for 2021. So we still have a really solid foundation of trade partners, but looking back, we were remiss in not really putting our arms around the people that built our business. So there's a renewed effort this year and next to really reintroduce ourselves and to show what it is that we're capable of doing. And this year in particular has been interesting because a lot of folks have come back knocking on our door for upgrades, and more and more folks are spending time at home, and they're realizing that their home technology isn't necessarily what they thought it was. They see that there's deficiencies and it's time to upgrade. So we've seen a nice little spike in activity, and seen all these clients that we've had these long-standing relationships with resurface. And that was just a reminder that, we need to make sure we're not forgetting about those folks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to pull on a lot of different threads there, but I want to be mindful of, I also want to go back into your background just so our audience kind of understands. I mean, you've done something I'm going to call amazing. You've been with Barrett's Technology Solutions for 30 years, 29 years.
29 years. It'll be 29 years on, believe it or not, on New Year's Eve. I started on New Year's Eve. I don't know who starts a job on New Year's Eve.
Who starts a job on New Year's Eve?
I don't know. I did. So that date is always in my mind, and it's hard to believe, Ron. I have to tell you, it's when I look at 29 years of history, it's sometimes a little surreal. I can't tell you how fast time has gone by, but at the same time is, we have reinvented ourselves many times within that span. So while I'm in this, I've been at the same company for 29 years. It's there's been new challenges along the way, and again, I mean, the business today is completely different than what the business was 29 years ago.
That when you joined 29 years ago, what were you hired to do?
I was hired. So I joined the company, and for me, it was supposed to be a stopgap job. I was in between colleges and looking for something to make some money. I always had an interest in electronics. I was always the kid growing up that the top item on my wish list, my Christmas list, was some electronic gadget. So I always had an interest in the gear, and I happened to see an ad in the paper for a place called Barrett's Audio Video, and I just thought, hey, this seems like it would suit me. I'd be interested. It was a stone's throw from my house. It was in a shopping mall that I lived, 5 miles down the road, and I stopped in and had a conversation with his name is John Wetlaufer, who's still with our company today. And,
wow.
Long story short, John ended up hiring me and brought me in, and, I was hired to be a salesperson. And it was the first time I ever sold anything. But I had such an interest in the gear and the technology, and I had the ability, fortunately, to be able to, talk to people and resonate, that I didn't realize I had that until after I joined. Frankly, I didn't know how I would do on the sales floor, but I had a lot of success. I think that first year in the company, I think I was the number one guy in the company over 5 stores, which was kind of it was a hidden talent that I didn't know that I had.
Had you ever sold anything before that?
Never sold a thing before that. So, but what I had was passion, right? I really enjoyed what I was doing. I'll never forget to this day, Ron, my first sale was a Mitsubishi big screen TV and a Fisher rack system together. And at the time, that was probably like a $6,000 sale, and that was like a big deal.
Is that the TVs that were like a corrugated plastic and like you could scratch them, and they had a CRT projector behind them?
You got it. So
now, I know some of the people listening are like, "What the hell is he talking about?" But
yeah, I'm sure.
I remember those big. I had family that had those TVs.
Oh my God, I can't even tell you how many of those things we sold over the years. It was fun. And
there's like something in the back door. I want to say there was a point one of my relatives, like an animal, got caught inside the TV.
I've heard that before, for sure.
And it was like a big disaster because the cat, heck with the cat, but the TV might blow up, and it was like a big deal.
No, I've heard all those stories. It's interesting. I can't tell you how many hundreds of those we sold over the years. And at Barrett's, that's really what we were known for. That was our background was in video, selling TVs. So it was quite a transition. And one of the other things that kind of pushed us in this direction is, at one point in time, we were able to have a really healthy company selling big screen TVs. And, as soon as flat panel TVs came out, the whole business changed. There was no longer the ability to really make money on flat screen TVs. So at that point, we started shifting a little bit of our emphasis into the audio side.
When did plasmas come around? I mean, when was like the Runco, or was it the Pioneer Elite, or the?
Yeah, there was the Pioneer Elite, and NEC had one, and I remember Integra, the audio manufacturer, had one that was like super high end, and at the time, they were $25,000. I mean, they were, a 50-inch television was extraordinarily expensive.
Put this on the screen. Eddie's saying, "No, not the cat." Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for tuning in. That's fine. Well, all right. So let me put on the screen here. Angel, who is asking you. He said, "What was your personal favorite gadget?" So I'm going to say maybe the gadget or tech that you sold retail. What was like the thing that resonated with you as a favorite?
Oh man, there's so many. I'll have to say too, and this is going to date me a little bit, I guess, but one of the favorite gadgets that I had was a mini disc player.
Sure.
And I was able to take, some CDs and record them onto mini disc and create playlists.
Cool, right? Is that why? Just because the mini disc was a cool thing?
It was just cool. And it never really had any traction in the industry. It was such a niche thing, but it was so very cool. And then the other one I would say is a Laserdisc player. I bought a Laserdisc player, and the quality of video was just so much better than VHS at the time. And, started building up a Laserdisc collection, and it was just, it was fun. So I had a good time with those, and, missed those days. I mean, today the physical media is kind of dried up. Everything's gone to streaming. And I mean, as consumers, we have more content than we even know what to do with. But, back in the day, there was something about having that Laserdisc, the physical disc and the cover and all the pictures and everything that went along with it. I think that's one of the reasons that, and I've never been somebody that's gotten into it to a great extent, but that's one of the reasons vinyl has made such a comeback is, it's sort of that tactile thing where people enjoy, having the cover art and seeing the, whatever the story on the artist and having, it's a different experience.
Here at One Firefly, we use a piece of software called Slack to keep our team, who's all, remote throughout the US and Mexico, to keep us all connected. And we have a channel called, we have lots of fun channels, social, non-work related things. And we have a plant channel. And one of my writers posted a picture of some of their plants. And I've been posting pictures of my plants. And I couldn't help but look past the plants to seeing the vinyl record collection. And you're not going to call it a record player, but what do you call it?
A turntable.
There you go. A turntable. Everyone's going to throw eggs at me for calling it a record player, but yeah, the turntable. And that was my comments. I was like, oh, look at you with the vinyl collection. Like, yeah, that's a hobby.
It's a big hobby for a lot of people. And what's really cool about that, Ron, is the age group that is really getting in vinyl isn't what you think it is. I mean, there's a ton of 18 to 25-year-olds.
This is a millennial that has the vinyl collection. This is right. This is what they'll go out on the weekend and they'll go find, try to look for that new album. The same stuff you'd see kids doing in the 70s, right?
Yeah. I love it. It warms my heart. It means, that generation is getting into music and getting into that experience. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Oh, look, Maria, she says, I have a vinyl record collection myself. Look at that. It's a real thing. Let me give a few more shout outs here. Becca, thanks for joining. She says, thanks for joining, Brian, from snowy Ohio.
Thanks, Becca.
And Ellie says, welcome to the show, Brian. Excited to learn more about what you do. So let's talk about, so you guys went from, you went from selling retail to transitioning. Walk me through just the couple of those steps from retail to COO. Give me the cliff notes, because I want to go into a lot more about your business today and the current economic environment of today. But I just want to make sure I see for our audience, some of those clear, defined steps.
Yeah. So I mentioned I had success, working the sales floor back in the day. And, at the time that eventually led to a store management position. So, we had, I mentioned 5 stores at the time. So I was one of 5 store managers that reported back to our home office and, always had success. I mean, the stores that I had worked in were always performing well. And, the owner at the time, I got a great relationship with today and had a great relationship back then. And, saw the potential in me and gave me an opportunity to kind of move on. So, I can't recall the exact year, but I was promoted to a general manager position where I oversaw the multiple stores that we had. And, right around, I want to say it was around 2003, we had opened our flagship location. It was in Naperville, Illinois. It was a 25,000 square foot showroom at the time. It was a big building. And, I was put in charge of managing that location and had a great run there for many, many years. Eventually, as I said, as we saw the retail business, shifting away more in favor of the custom integration business. And, that just kind of happened organically over the years. But once we saw, that success, we really decided to double down on the, custom integration and go out and get the business. And that led to Joe Barrett moving into a business development role. And when he moved into that role, his focus was to be outside. And again, creating those relationships and, that created a void where we really needed somebody on the inside that was running the day-to-day operations of the company, overseeing our sales team, overseeing our install team, and making sure that we're, had our vision was, we had a right path for that, and that we were having success along the way. And, I was fortunate enough to be put into that position. And,
it sounds like you earned it.
Yeah, no, I like to believe I earned it. It took a lot of time to make that happen, but, I had demonstrated that I could be successful. And it was, I was having fun while I was doing it. And, when I came in, my focus was to really, look forward, and I didn't want to look in the rearview mirror. I think for a while we had a tendency to, just continually think, what if we made another effort to go after the retail business? And, when you have a 25,000 square foot facility, that's an easy thing to fall into because you have this massive commitment. We had this, a lot of overhead in terms of, products and on demonstration on the sales floor. And, we had a vested interest to make that successful, but, I was always kind of the cog in the wheel. It was saying, hey, let's not really focus on retail. Let's really put all of our effort into the CI side, and let's make sure that the systems we're setting up, the decisions we're making as a company are putting us in the best position to be successful there, because that's where our future was.
So you saw the integration side of the business really growing. You saw it as profitable. You saw it as scalable, and you saw maybe some of the cracks in the armor of retail a while back.
No question. And I also saw that there were fewer people doing what we do today. So there was a great opportunity. And I knew that we had, the team, we had the expertise. I knew we had everything else, to be successful. So it was really just a matter of committing ourselves and making sure that, we were making decisions as an integration company and not as a retailer. And it was a little scary for a while. I mean, when the foundation of our company is built on retail, to think about the prospect of, no longer trying to drive business through the front door is interesting. And it's a little scary.
I have a question out of left field. I didn't, there's no preparation here, and I have no idea what your opinion is, but it's something I've been noodling for. Well, he just left. So there we go. This happens sometimes. Stand by. He should be able to rejoin. I have no idea what just happened, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see if... Can you rejoin? It could be something as simple as, yep, there we go. See, we don't panic around here. I was just saying, we don't panic around here. He might rejoin. I see you asked me before we went live, does anything weird ever happen? I said, you never know.
Ron, I'm glad we talked about it.
You didn't panic, right?
I remained cool and collected, and here we are.
All right. So here's the question I was going to ask you. I am seeing and hearing more and more, particularly this year. It happened in 2020. And the question that I've had people pose to me. And so rather than tell my beliefs one way or another, I'm just going to pose it freely to you. Let's get your feedback. And that is, there are people that, I say people, there are businesses that are, call them audio video retail operations. So they have brick and mortar, so I'm going to make it more complex, or they are hybrid AV retailers / integrators, or they're pure residential integrators, a la what you are today, pure integration, 25 person company doing pure, resi and or a little bit of light commercial integration. Mm-hmm. What is your opinion about the role of turning a website into e-commerce, either with a heavy focus or a light focus, with the goal or hopes that would generate some type of revenue that's meaningful to your business?
It's an interesting question. And I know some other dealers across the country that are doing that very successfully. I also know that it takes a lot of bandwidth. It's very taxing on the company to open an e-commerce business. So, we noodled around with it some years ago and just decided that, again, it's all about where do you want to focus your efforts. And at the time, with just a limited amount of bandwidth, we knew that was just one of these initiatives, we just didn't have the ability to take on. That being said, I know some do it successfully, very successfully, and it's been a thriving business for them. I don't necessarily see that that's going to be something that's in our future. But for those who do it, it's, I'm envious to some degree because, that's been a great revenue stream for them.
When you say you went down that path, do you mind providing any clarity you feel comfortable with? Like what did you do and what made you ultimately turn away?
Well, I mean, we didn't get far enough along the path to really speak to it with, any extent, but it's something that we had talked about, being in, we're a member of a national buying group called HTSA, Home Technology Specialists of America. And, one of the things with HTSA is we get together multiple times a year at conferences and we share ideas. So, we had heard from others that were doing e-commerce very successfully, that there's a good future in that, and we saw that firsthand. We saw the kind of numbers that they were putting up, and it was very impressive. So it was tempting. I mean, we didn't get far enough along where we started building any infrastructure or setting up systems to actually go down that road. But we had a lot of conversation about it, and just realized that again, I'm with a relatively smaller firm. It's all about, where do you place your efforts? And that's one of the things, getting back to retail, is, dividing those efforts, with a 20, 30 person firm, there's only so much bandwidth that you have. And what we found is, we were placing a disproportionate amount of effort trying to drive retail business. And that was just diverting, everything from being successful into this, thriving business that we had on the CI side. And, that's when we came to the realization is just, the amount of time we were spending on a weekly basis trying to drive that business when, this other part of our business is having great success and needs attention. We just knew that we needed to refocus our efforts. So, getting into e-commerce, it kind of fell into that same category where we just knew we didn't have the bandwidth to be able to do that, and be able to support and be the best integration company that we wanted to be.
When you ultimately pivoted into pure integration, like you and Joe and leadership said, we're going all in. We're going to be the best integrators in Chicago. We're going to be the best integrators that we can be in the Midwest. And we're no longer retailers. When that decision happened, how did you feel? And what happened when you guys went all in with that approach?
How I felt is a little different than.
Oh, yeah. Click the restart button again. Something's going on wonky with your machine. I hear you, but I don't see you. Your machine is acting. There he is. The good news is on the podcast, Carlos, our brilliant engineer, will cut all of this out and no one will know there were a few interruptions.
Fantastic.
For our live audience, they get to live on the edge with us.
Sorry, everyone. I guess these are the beauties of, having conversations in a virtual space.
Virtual and live, real time, not
right
in advance. No, go ahead. I don't know if you remember the question.
When I remember the day, there was a singular event that I remember talking about this because we at the time we were planning an audio event. And again, we had heard, through some counterparts that they've hosted events and they've had this massive, massive success, hundreds of people lining outside the door. And, we had high hopes and we put a lot of effort into an event, and not that it was unsuccessful, but we didn't have the type of attendance that we had hoped for. And it was just, there was such extraordinary effort that went into having this. That was the day that the writing was kind of on the wall saying, hey, I can't even tell you for the last month how many hours we put into building this event, to build a retail business. And, we just didn't see the fruits of that labor. So I remember having that conversation, and for me, I had kind of felt this for years leading up to it. Again, through our fellow dealers at HTSA, I had seen the successes other dealers have had either in the integration space or making that transition from retail to integration. I knew we had all the other parts to be successful, so it was easier for me. Joe, I don't want to speak for Joe Barrett. He's not on the call here, but I think it was a little more challenging for him just because, retail was in his DNA. His family had built this, really reputable retail company over the years. And, I remember the time when we made that transition, there was a period of time, and I still joke around with Joe about it today, where, we had focused on, okay, let's make sure that we're doing everything we can to drive the integration business. And let's forget about, how many door swings there are and how many people are coming in. And I remember the days where Joe would kind of be out of the corner of his eye, looking at the front door, looking to see who's walking through, and maybe a little nervous about it. That was the time, though, that we just knew that, it was necessary. We weren't going to accomplish anything sitting there staring at the front door, waiting for people to come in, that we had to be aggressive about going out to get the business. And I have to tell you that, when Joe took over that position of business development, I mean, he owned it and he's killing it. And he's found, I tell him he's found his calling because he's just such a natural at it. And again, it's a different type of sales.
What is it? Let's go into it. When you say Joe, the principal or the primary owner of the business, I now know there are others, but when he's put into a role that it's mutually decided upon by leadership that he's going to go do biz dev, what does that mean? Like, what doors is he knocking on, and what's he doing?
So he really focused on, all the trades. So I would say that we first started by embracing the design community and really had really tremendous success. And again, you have to look at it as the long game. It doesn't happen overnight, but it takes persistence and it takes consistency. And you have to be out there. You have to be visible. You have to be available. You have to be aggressive. And he was all those things. From cold calling to showing up at every networking function and getting to know people. And it's a totally different type of sales cycle because you're not. With business development, you're not in talking about technology. I mean, when you're having a conversation at a networking function, you're not, talking about the things that we're typically talking about with our clients. You're learning about people's kids and about where they took vacations, and you're getting to know folks on a personal level. And he was just such a natural at that in time, he built these relationships. And, once you build that relationship, then the opportunity opens up to be able to talk about what we do. And we made a really strong effort when we felt the time was right to invite the trade partners back to our facility to give them a tour, have them meet our people, and to talk more specifically about what we do and how we can benefit their business. So it's kind of a multi-step approach. It takes time. And even, when you finally turn that corner and you have your first opportunity, you're not done there. If folks are going to bring you into their projects, let's say a designer is going to, stick their neck out and bring us into a project, we have to make sure we hit a home run on that. We have to make sure that, they're sticking their neck out and recommending Barrett's to come in. And we have to make sure that we make them look good and that they feel comfortable working with us and that we're on their team. And we really started with the design community and really had a message for the design community that we can integrate technology, but we can also do it in a way that's not going to distract from their beautiful design. So a lot of our focus was talking about these stealthy technologies that we can install where you don't even really know that there's technology in the space. Things like vanishing mirror televisions and invisible speakers and, just things, lift mechanisms to hide TVs into cabinets and all those sorts of things. And once we went out there with that message, it really resonated with the design community. And, they saw that we were a partner. It wasn't this adversarial thing that, I've heard many, many years that, it could be a little difficult because there's two different visions, right? The designer has a vision to make the space look beautiful, and inherently the stuff that we do isn't beautiful. I mean, that's the history, is it's black boxes, and it
certainly a reputation maybe that technology in the home has earned.
Yeah, it's earned it over years, but that's absolutely not the case today. And our vendor community has developed some really terrific technologies that have design in mind. And as soon as we saw that, the industry turning that corner, we embraced it 100% because we knew the message was going to be a little different. So that, and then just really advocating that we're there to be a trusted resource. And we weren't just going after big projects, by the way. One of the messages that really seems to stick is that we want to be a resource for all things, right? If they have a client that needs a TV in a kitchen, and it's a TV and a cable box, and it's a simple project, like, we want to be the firm that they call for that work too. And once you take that position, you become, their company, you become their guy. And they're the ones that they call, not only for the smaller service projects, but also for the bigger projects that they're working on.
You saying that, I was just on a call yesterday with Chris from Service Tech down in Austin, another HTSA member. And he was showing me a YouTube video where he and his team were part of the crew that hung a car on the wall. And
Awesome.
And he had integrated lighting control into the lights in the car, so it was part of the control system. And I was like, that's like one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And it was so amazing that you were called to be part of the team to hang a TV on the wall, or not TV, a car on the wall, like an automobile on the wall as art. And it's to your point, when you're in the right place with the right people and you've demonstrated your commitment to be part of that team, you're going to get the call. And they have to know they can call you, and you're going to be there to help solve problems or be part of the team that's going to solve problems.
That's it. I mean, you want to be their resource. And it's, as we've made that transition, it's amazing. I don't think we've hung any cars on the wall. So I think we have one to aspire to here. That's an interesting story, but
headlights are a button push on the keypad.
Is that right? How cool is that? But the things that we're called in to do now are, so much different. Back in the day is, selling TVs and stereos. And today the breadth of services that we have are like, if back when I joined the company in 1991, I could have never dreamed we'd be doing the things we are today. And we continue to evolve. The past couple of years, and again, through a big push through our buying group, HTSA, is the lighting fixture business. And that's, that there's tremendous upside there, and it makes nothing but sense because, we've been the trade for years that handles the lighting control portion of the project. So it just makes sense to, provide a turnkey approach and also offer the fixtures and to be able to, speak to the technology and make sure that there's a good integration and compatibility. It makes nothing but sense. So lighting fixtures is a new endeavor for us. And then, on the frontier, and this is really going to be big, I think largely, it's been on the radar for a while, but this year it's certainly gotten a little bit more publicity, is wellness. Another tremendous opportunity. And, right now we're just scratching the surface on both of those things. There's a lot of other firms that are a lot further along than we are, but we see the potential.
Still the early days.
Still the early days. But it's
category. I think there's a lot of room to run. So I don't know that anyone's really late at this point.
No. And, at this point, we're just trying to educate ourselves as much as we can. We're trying to learn and absorb. And, we want to be in the position where we can be that expert. I can't say we're in that position today, but we're learning as much as we can so that we can be that, resource down the line. And there's always going to be new opportunities like that. And that's one of the interesting things with this business, is that it's always evolving. We make jokes at the office here that, we kind of, years ago, we longed for those days where folks would engage us on a project and say, hey, by the way, do you guys also do audio and video? And we've evolved to that point where now we're called into projects to do things like lighting control and motorized shades and climate control and controlling the pool and spa and just the whole general, smart home environment. that the things that that our roots were based on, audio video, sometimes is almost secondary to some of those other things.
I'm definitely hearing a theme here of adapting. I don't think any business can be a business in business. In your case, I can't even do the math quick enough, but since 1966, that's a lot of years. That's over
54 years.
54 years without adapting. And many businesses, I want to even say something bad. Maybe most businesses can't adapt or don't adapt. You guys have. Where does that come from?
It comes from several things. I mean, years of, seeing the cycles of business. You learn a lot. Every once in a while, you get punched in the mouth and you learn from those things, and you have to be able to adapt. That's just the nature of a small business. But, it's been the culture of our company really since I joined is don't be afraid to change. Like if there's a new thing on the horizon and we see an opportunity, that we need to embrace it. And we're a small enough company that we can do those things. I mean, even in my time in the company, there's been several evolutions. I mentioned before that we joined when the company was founded. We started out as Barrett's Audio Video. At some point in the mid 90s when home theater was going gangbusters, we changed our name to Barrett's Home Theater and had a great run for a lot of years and really focused our effort on, installing home theaters and media rooms. And, once that
and now, isn't it? Isn't the home theater category like a thing? It's, what's old is new again.
Without question. And having those roots, like every time we're working with a client today that's interested in a home theater, reminding them that, hey, our name was once Barrett's Home Theater, adds a little additional credibility that we know that business well. But it did get to a point where that we were at the tail end of that home theater boom. And, we were doing all these other things, right? It wasn't just home theater. At that point, we were starting to do some automation and control. We were doing lighting control and motorized shades. And, the breadth of services had really expanded to a point where, the moniker Barrett's Home Theater just pigeonholed us, where when we were working with companies, specifically even as in the early days of business development, we kind of got chalked up as, they're the home theater guy. And, yes, we did home theaters, but we also did all these other things. So, it was probably about 10 years ago or so that we changed our name to Barrett's Technology Solutions, which really much better speaks to, who we are today and the things that we do today. It's
kind of a catch-all name.
It's kind of a catch-all name, right? And it definitely better, serves us today with, all the areas of expertise that we had. But it was an interesting cycle going through from, retail, audio, video, home theater, technology solutions.
I'm mindful of time, and I have so many things. My audience always hears me say this. So many things I know I still want to get to, and I know I don't have time. So it just means you're going to have to come back. But I do have a topic I want to sneak in here under the wire, just because, again, I'm going to call it a theme of 2020. I'm hearing this. We're kind of in the middle of our own analysis and thinking around this. But you've lived this. You've already done what I'm about to ask. So I'd love if you'd be willing to share. And that is, I know that Barrett's has been, in terms of marketing strategies, practicing Google ads for many years. And I know that, there was a time when you were a retailer, you were brick and mortar, and you were driving those activities to drive promotions or deals or foot traffic. And today, here you are still doing Google ads as a part of your overall marketing strategy. And you're in an office park. You don't want that random person walking in the front door. And so I'm asking, has that particular, it's very specific, has that marketing strategy, did it work for you then? And does it work for you now? And if so, what's changed? What's different?
So the short answers are yes and yes. It worked back then and it's still working today. And it's a big focus. I mean, we don't spend a lot of money each month on marketing. Most of our marketing dollars are spent in terms of, the business development side, joining network groups and attending functions. And, we still have events. They're a little different focus on the events today than, back.
You have a marketing budget. You're just slicing the pie and putting it in, events and in different categories.
Correct. So, but a big portion of that is made up by Google AdWords. So we still very much see the relevance in Google AdWords. When we had more of a retail presence, the strategy at that time was really to focus on brands, more so brands, less so services. So we would really focus on driving brands because that was the nature of a retail business, is you want folks to, whatever brand it is that they're searching on, see you at the top of that list. And, as a result of that, come into your store and hopefully make a purchase. When our business transitioned, where, we were out of the items business and into the solutions business, it took a long while to adapt and figure out what does our new strategy need to look like, because brands weren't really working for us anymore. They were, we still had the activity, but it wasn't the focus of our business. What we were after was the project, not selling the item. And the strategy is completely different. And what I chose to do is focus really on services as opposed to the categories or the brands. I chose to really focus on high level services. And some of this was a matter of setting expectations, even for myself, as to what was our goal. And when I made that change, my goal was never to drive, hundreds of clicks each month. If you get the clicks, that's great. And we were getting clicks, but that wasn't my measure of success. My measure of success was getting the right clicks. So, everything that we did strategically was based on trying to get the right client to our door, to get them to our website, get them to our door, have them pick up their phone to give us a call. And it took a long while to make that shift. And, I've mentioned this before, but if I only have 5 inquiries a month as a result of the Google AdWords and our ad spend, but they're the right 5 leads, I'm completely satisfied with that. Even if it's just 1 or 2, I'm completely satisfied with that. So I'll tell you a little story. When we first started doing this, and this is really when, where the light bulb went off and it solidified our approach, is we were spending some money on AdWords, and we had just started to make that transition to focus on high level services. We had we spent a long time really trying to understand the geographic areas and what geographic areas we needed to focus on, so that we were very deliberate, and we had a strategy, a very focused strategy. This was right when Trump Tower downtown was just starting to sell units. We had a website inquiry come through from a gentleman from the Netherlands, and he had found us on Google, and it was a result of the strategy we had at the time. And he at the time was interested in a whole home automation project for his luxury condominium unit at Trump Tower. So we met with him on site, had a great conversation, really hit it off. Long story short, we ended up signing a contract. He signed a contract with us to take on a project. So the very day that he signed the contract, he said, I need to get things moving here. I have a designer that's coming tomorrow to look through the space. I know it's short notice, but would you mind meeting my design team on site to walk through the project? He was going to be the client was going to be on a plane to Malaysia or wherever he was going. So we said, sure, we'll meet on site. Well, we meet the designer in the lobby at Trump Tower, and the first thing she says is, hey, we want to go up and look at the client's unit, but before we do that, we have 2 other units here that we'd like you to check out. So it was right then and there that, I realized it's all about the quality and not the quantity. That led to a relationship that we still have today with that designer. And it's led to hundreds of thousands of dollars of business over the years. And it was a result of a single search from a client based on a Google ad spend. So
$5 click on Google.
Exactly.
And that's a pretty good return on investment.
Very good return on investment. So I try to remember that and remind myself of that, as I move forward, is that's what it's all about. If I'm not getting a huge quantity of clicks, I'm okay with that, as long as the opportunities that we do see are the ones that we're looking for. And it takes effort. It doesn't happen by itself. You have to put in the effort. There's not a month that goes by that we're not looking at, our AdWords and our strategy and making tweaks to it. And you can't just rely on just that too. You have to look at the organic side. So, we have taken on an initiative through your firm to do blogs, monthly blogs. We repurpose those as newsletters each month. And, my goal is when somebody's searching on, one of the services we provide to have us not only show up, on the paid search, but have us show up on the organic search. And that's where you really begin to develop a lot of relevance in the eyes of the consumer.
Yeah, and just to kind of tease you, Brian, but the audience as well, if you guys go to Google and do a search today, there's actually so many different areas of that page one that are really, let's call them uncharted territory for search performance, greater than just the ad position, greater than just the organic position. And there'll be stuff coming down the pipe from One Firefly a little bit later this year that's going to help address that and build dominance for businesses in those positions. So let's just say the game on Google is always changing, just like life and business. And, we can't sit on our laurels and expect that what is working today will work tomorrow.
Well, I look forward to learning more about it. I mean, we've kind of entrenched ourselves in the digital marketing world, and that's not my background. I'm by no means an expert, but, you can, just based on how involved I have been, I know that, the return on investment is there, and it definitely makes sense. And again, you have to be focused, and every month and every year, the strategy changes. Even, today, focusing on keywords like home automation, they don't mean what they meant, 7 or 8 years ago. Yep. Today, home automation is sort of this generic thing that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So,
an AT system, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So, you have to really be looking at the trends, and, you have to stay in tune with what's going on. And it does take effort.
No, I agree. Keith just posted, Keith with HTSA. He just said, yes, always shoot for the relationship, not just the sale. And I couldn't agree more. And Eddie just said, hey, Ron, that sounds exciting. So thank you, Eddie. That was a tease. I'll show up for my webinar tomorrow, and I'll show you about my new videos. But my SEO stuff, that's a little bit later in the year. But just know we are never sitting on our laurels at One Firefly. We're always cooking up. We're always looking at what's coming and where we need to be, so that when the market catches up, we're already there. Brian, thank you, sir, for being very generous with your time and knowledge and experience and sharing that with our audience. It was a lot of fun having you on the show, sir.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ron. You've been a great partner over the years, and I'm glad we finally had the opportunity to do this. So thanks again.
Well, I agree. And likewise, if our audience wants to get in touch with you directly, and/or they want to learn about Barrett's, what would you have them do? Where do you want to direct traffic?
So visit our website. It's www.barretts.tv, like Tom Victor, or feel free to reach out by email. My email address is bperreault@barretts.tv. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask Stephanie, who's tuning in, to drop those details for me in the comments. And so anyone that is listening, let's say purely through podcast, you can jump, either you can replay it, you can rewind and listen to that, and/or you can jump over to the Facebook page or the website, and you can get all that good contact information. So on that note, Brian, thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us. And if we don't talk sooner, we're here on December 16th. So we've got the holidays. We're in the middle of Hanukkah. We've got Christmas down the corner and New Year's. So happy holidays to you, your family, and your team.
Same to you, Ron. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. All right, team. You're my team, right? We're hanging out together. Thank you for joining us. That was a lot of fun. It was... Brian and Joe Barrett and the whole team over there at Barrett's. I mean, they are, they're one of the originals. They're the OGs of audio video retailing and integration. And that was fun to get some of their perspective. I see that Stephanie just dropped the website down in the comments. So definitely be sure to check out their website or reach out to Brian directly. And again, tomorrow I am having a webinar. We're doing a webinar tomorrow at 12 o'clock and at 5 o'clock. Both times are Eastern time. And if you want to check out some of our new media gallery content that is available exclusively to our website clients. So either you already are my website client with a Mercury Pro, or maybe you want to consider us, or maybe you want to go shoot your own or work with a local videographer and you just want to be inspired about maybe the types of content to produce. Our full video libraries, we don't put that content out for public consumption. And so tomorrow will be an opportunity for you to take a look at our content and see what it's like and how we do it. And we'll be there to answer questions as well. So if you guys want to tune in, be sure to join us. And you can do that by visiting Instagram or Facebook or our website. Go to the webinar section and you'll see all the information and how to register. And maybe for the hell of it, Stephanie, if we want to get that registration link, maybe both the 12 o'clock and the 5 o'clock, and we'll put it down in the comments here on this show. That way we'll maybe give you a shortcut and make it easy for you to get there. If you have not done so already, and I look at this every week, I run through it with Stephanie and my team, definitely subscribe to the podcast. That is the audio only version of the show where we take the goodness from the interview and we put that out there so that you can listen to that in your ear holes while you're on your Peloton bike or maybe out on your morning walk or stretch. And podcasting is a pretty fast growing media consumption format. So if you're going to jump on that train, don't forget to subscribe and check out the show. And on that note, here's our website, onefirefly.com. There's our phone number, our 800 number. And I will see you all next time. I think we're going to try to get a show in next week. But I'll just say stay tuned to social media and you'll see if we're going to get a show in here before the end of the year. And if not, I wish you all a happy and safe holiday season, and we will definitely see you in the new year. Thanks, everyone. Be well.